Donald Trump is the first former U.S. president to be a convicted felon. But will the verdict help or hurt his 2024 campaign? Non-white voters may have the answer. Here's a part of what some of the callers on the popular morning radio program, The Breakfast Club, had to say after the verdict.
I feel like Trump got did dirty. And I don't trust the system at all. After you've been railroaded by this system, and you see that when you walk in the courtroom, they want you to be guilty. You're going to be guilty. How can anybody black vote for Biden? At least Trump real.
I'd rather have a president, right, who's going to be honest and show me that he's the a-hole than have a president who's going to lie to me to try to gas me up to get my vote.
Breakfast Club host Charlamagne the God is going to join me in just a moment. In the most recent poll of battleground states, which included third-party candidates, Biden had only 49% support of registered black voters. And in a two-way race, Biden had 63% support, with Trump getting 23%. If these numbers were to hold up by Election Day, Trump would have the highest level of black support for any Republican presidential candidate in the last 60 years. From a national scale, a Pew Research poll finds Trump polling 18% of support from black voters, which is a dramatic shift from 2020 when Trump received only 8% of the black vote against Biden. That itself was a slight uptick from the 6% he received against Hillary Clinton in 2016. Similarly, a Washington Post Ipsos poll found a 12% drop in the number of black Americans saying they are certain they will vote in this election cycle. The drop in voter turnout is even sharper among young black voters who mostly disapprove of Biden's job performance. To mobilize support among this critical voting bloc, Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris held a rally in Philadelphia this week.
What do you think would happen if black Americans had stormed the Capitol? I don't think he'd be talking about pardons. It's the same guy who wanted to tear gas you as you peacefully protested George Floyd's murder. The same guy who still calls the Central Park Five guilty, even though they were exonerated. He's that landlord who denies housing applications because of the color of your skin. He's that guy who won't say Black Lives Matter and invokes neo-Nazi Third Reich terms.
My next guest has interviewed both Vice President Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden. Biden back in 2020 when he gave this controversial answer.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community.
Joining me now is Charlamagne the God, the host of the popular iHeartRadio breakfast program called The Breakfast Club, which reaches nearly 6 million listeners a month. As you can see, he's also the author of a new book called Get Honest or Die Lying, Why Small Talk Sucks. Charlamagne, I love the book. We're going to talk about the book. You write, small talk is killing us as a society, so there won't be small talk here. When I recently wondered aloud if Trump has the sympathy of some black men, because historically many of them have had their own legal entanglements. Somebody close to me said, you can't say that as a white guy, you're stereotyping, maybe you'll be perceived as racist. But some of your callers are saying the same thing. Do you agree that's what accounts for some of his black support?
Well, I don't agree. You know, black people are not monolithic, so I can't speak for all black people. But personally, I don't agree. Donald Trump is not a political prisoner. He's not someone who, you know, died unjustly at the hands of the police. He's a privileged former president who broke the law, and he got held accountable for it. And that's the way it should be. Damn shame he can still, you know, run for president, you know, after being convicted on all those counts. But clearly America has zero protection, you know, for people like a Donald Trump.
Okay, in the book you say if you're black, it's almost assured that you've suffered some sort of trauma in your life. The justice system is certainly the source of a lot of that trauma, but you're not seeing any parallel between the decline of support for Biden among people of color, the rise of support for Trump, and Trump's legal issues.
No, not at all. I don't think.
Then what accounts for it?
You know,
then what accounts for it?
I mean, I don't even know if there's really a rise. I think some of those polls might be a little bit overstated. I mean, we're going to have to see come November. But when I look at those numbers and I see people say, 22% of all black people are going to vote, for Donald Trump, I don't necessarily believe that. I don't know if I believe those numbers to be true. I think there might be a slight uptick, but I can't see 22% of, black people going out to vote for Donald Trump come November. I could be wrong, but I don't personally see it.
In the book, you talk about your fondness. We have this in common. We both love the movie Bulworth, Warren Beatty
Yes.
and Bulworth. And Warren Beatty doesn't feel obligated to do safe speak. I found interesting that you talk about private conversations with Secretary Clinton, private conversations with Kamala Harris, and then like when the mic gets hot, it's a different persona. They are not Bulworth. Trump is Bulworth. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think that, one thing that Donald Trump did that I believe is a good thing is, he killed the language of politics. Like the language of politics is dead. So, if you had these politicians who actually sat down, with everyday working class people and had conversations with everyday working class people. I mean, that's what I get to do every morning on the Breakfast Club. That's what I get to do when I'm out doing my, community work, whether it's in South Carolina, whether it's in New Jersey, whether it's in New York. When you get to actually talk to people and see what's on people's minds, when you get in front of those microphones, you'll always have that in your head. You'll always have, in your mind what people are actually saying. When you're sitting around with your team and your team is coming at you with all these notes, you're like, well, you can personally say, I don't know if that's how people feel because I saw, a young woman in Florida, and I'm speaking off experience. I just saw a young woman in Florida. Her name was Kim when I was at Coral Gables for a book signing. She came up to me and, she said to me that, Biden is going to have to earn her vote this year because she's upset that Biden didn't fight hard enough for voting rights and that Biden didn't fight, hard enough to increase the federal minimum wage. These are words that are coming out of their mouth. When I was speaking back in January, somebody asked me at Fox actually if the border was going to be an issue in November. The reason I said yes was because of the conversations that I had been having with activists in Chicago, with people in neighborhoods in New York. So my rhetoric comes from the people, and that's what happened in the movie Bulworth. His rhetoric was coming from the people. These elected officials, need to sit down and have more conversations with individuals. I see them, going around and they're having these, rallies where they're talking to people. They should change those to town halls and actually talk with people. I actually think they should listen, more than they're talking right now.
Charlamagne, one of the highest compliments paid to me was by Bill Maher when he said to me, "You don't have a team." And as I was reading your book, I was thinking, Charlamagne, you don't have a team either. And it came to light in that View interview where it's like they were putting pressure on you. It was almost expected of you. Hey, wait a minute. Maybe because you're a person of color, maybe because of the interview that you had done previously with then Vice President Biden, like, why aren't you on board and endorsing him? Address that issue.
Yeah, because I'm all about my interests, and I'm all about, I'm all about voting my interests, and I'm all about an issue. I'm an issues person. I'm not an individual person. I'm not a party person. And that, I think that media, we have to find a way, to let folks know, what Trump and his regime are planning, but I also think, sitting on air all day and sitting on social media all day talking about, how bad Trump isn't effective, because the people who are supporting Trump don't care about any of that. They don't care that he was convicted. They don't care that, he may have used the N-word. They don't care about any of his racism, sexism. They are all in on him, and nothing is going to change that. So the media, especially on the left, should talk more about the good things the Biden administration has done when people ask questions. And, if they're being fair on the right, they should do that as well. They shouldn't sit around and talk about, how bad a Biden is. They should talk about the things that Biden has done well, and they should talk about the things that, Trump isn't doing well. That way it would look like everybody is being, fair and balanced. But right now, you could just turn on any one network and know what team they're going to be representing. And that I don't
Totally,
personally think that's good for the American people.
Totally agree. My poll question today on my website at smerconish.com asks if this verdict is going to change the outcome of the election. What's your short answer to that?
It definitely will have an impact because I believe 2024 is going to come down to the battle of the bases. So those diehard, conservative and liberal voters who come out and vote no matter what. So it's really which candidate can energize their base the most. In a situation like this, it does energize Trump's base. You know, just yesterday in New York City, I'm going down Fifth Avenue. They were in the streets protesting, waving F Biden flags and stopping traffic. His base reacts to things, you know, the way the left should. Like, you know, when you see Roe v. Wade getting overturned, or voting rights being gutted, when those civil liberties are being taken away, folks should be in the streets protesting like that. So I see, you know, Trump's base more energized right now than I do, you know, Biden's base. I see Biden's base upset with him over a number of things. And I think in November, it's going to come down to a battle of those bases. So yes, I do think a situation like this gives them something to fight for.